Hello, and welcome to the Block Solid podcast, where we talk about the evolution of the property market, the newest technologies that enhance and revolutionize the world of real estate as we know it, and how we, the owners, the buyers, the renters, the investors, and the entrepreneurs can benefit from it all. I'm Yael Tamar, CMO and co-founder of Solid Block, pioneer in real estate tokenization, and today I'd like to welcome an exceptional guest, Natalia Karayaneva. Hi, Natalia. How are you?
Hi, great to see you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. You have a very, very impressive background and bio that I'm about to share with all the listeners. And, I've known you for probably about a year or so. I actually visited with your colleagues in Bulgaria about a year ago when I was there for a conference, and I learned about Propy and all the cool things that you guys are doing. So without further ado, Natalia is a Bulgarian award-winning real estate developer, software engineer, and a serial entrepreneur who uses automation to solve problems. As a teenager, Natalia had learned how to code, and at the age of 19, she launched her own company, a real estate investment and development company by the name of MP Group. She holds a degree in computer engineering from Russia and a degree in sustainable urban development from the University of Oxford. Natalia has extensive knowledge in international real estate and crypto economics, and as such is a frequent panelist and speaker at Global Blockchain and PropTech. She's known for founding Propy, a Silicon Valley PropTech company that developed an end-to-end real estate transaction management platform that facilitates safe, fast, and simple real estate transactions entirely online. Propy, in fact, is the first world's innovator utilizing smart contracts in real estate. Very cool, Natalia. We have a lot to talk about, I tell you that. You started Propy how many years ago? Was it 3 years ago?
4 years ago
now. Yeah. Wow. You got a lot of awards, right, with Propy?
Well, definitely we were doing first ever items. And so, that was a long journey.
Tell me a little bit about first use case that I actually first heard from your colleagues back in Bulgaria. One of the first ever recorded transactions on the blockchain for real estate was done by you guys, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are actually two major use cases in blockchain and real estate. One is recording of ownership on blockchain approved by government. So that's one case. And the other case is utilizing smart contracts for transactions so that all the pieces of the transactions are executed by smart contracts and recorded on the blockchain. So they were, I would say, two historical transactions that I believe we were the first ever in the world. The first one is really cool when we did a transaction in Ukraine when a crypto buyer acquired a property utilizing his Ether and sending the money to the seller who wanted to hold crypto. So that was very exciting. And the government actually approved this transaction. So it was pure smart contract execution without escrow company, and the smart contract played a role of an escrow. Yeah, exactly. So that was the first ever crypto to crypto approved by the government, the first in Ether, and so on and so on.
How did you charm the government into approving this?
Oh, the government reached out, or we reached out to them. I don't remember now. It was in Ukraine, and they want to be the first mover in blockchain. So that was early conversations, probably 1 year prior this transaction. And we had our CTO was from Ukraine. So we had few engineers from this country. And they understood that if you want to make this first transaction, this proof of concept, you have to be bold. And they did a tremendous work on actually researching. So I'm very, very proud of the work they did and we did together. And then the other historical transaction was in the United States. If you browse online, like the first ever recording on blockchain, you would see a number of proof of concepts in the United States, but ours was the first because it was not theoretical. It was practically recording a grand deed on the blockchain in Vermont County. And then after that first transaction, we actually built a recording software so that counties can record on the blockchain directly.
That is really cool. Is that something that we're going to see more of in the future, or are there some bottlenecks that we first need to uncork?
That's a great question, Yale, because right now we're selling our core product, which is transaction management system, to broker owners, escrow companies, realtors, and we just don't have enough resources to also educate and sell to governments, to counties. And in order this recording system to the go-to platform, of course, those counties, and there are 3,000 counties in the United States, they need to be educated and sold to. So I'm not sure when it would happen. We have the software, but we don't have the resources that is able to sell and educate.
I understand. So you know how right now the government is allocating grants with respect to Corona, right? To coronavirus and technology. So I think that your technology could be really, really helpful in approving and streamlining transactions in the time of COVID when you can't really go in person and travel and so on, right? Especially when you buy property in a different state. So what I know is that the government has allocated and allocates to counties, to cities, to states a certain amount of money specifically for implementing technologies. And so I think that this is something that you guys can take advantage of for sure.
I didn't know that the counties have a specific budget for recording online, because it's not only
for technologies, for general technologies that assist with COVID for sure. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. So another time where we got to briefly work together was when my team was going to Somaliland in Africa, and we tried to implement a blockchain registry there. We had some really, really good meeting with the government, 5 different ministers, the land authority, and everything else. That was a very, very interesting project by the name of Terramal, and I really hope that it will actually one day materialize. Right now, actually, what happened there was that the local government wasn't so forthcoming, and it was very, very difficult with corruption and, just the government being government. And that's actually the sort of thing that we're trying to prevent with the blockchain registry, right? So I think in general that those are the major problems in Africa that prevent from such technologies to be implemented. However, I learned a great deal about Propy and how it works and what it looks like. So can you talk a little bit about that product? Are you continuing with that product to this day?
Yeah, absolutely. It was really a fun time to work with you. It was very, very exciting. And I do hope as well that it will materialize. And we had similar project probably in 5, 6 other countries. So definitely we've acquired a lot of knowledge. And it's very related to the recording software that we have developed in the United States. So it's the same kind of project with the same challenges that selling to governments is a very long process with unknown outcomes. So we have the software, but we still didn't put as much efforts to actually sell and adopt it amongst governments. And thanks to people like you, we see that it's possible, because we do need to have advocates and enthusiasts like yourself who can unite those ministries, local and central government, to understand. And it's a huge opportunity for the countries that have corruption. And I understand that corruption is the bottleneck to actually get this product adopted in governments with corruption.
Catch-22, right? It's a catch-22. But the premise of the product, it's fantastic, especially in places where you don't have a clear recording of ownership up to this date. So it's a great opportunity to go and overhaul this whole system. I know a different company did this in Georgia. I think it was a Ukrainian company, but that's a great use case. Yeah, that's a great use case of how a relatively small country went and recorded everything. From now on, they're claiming that their real estate transactions anywhere, in Georgia will take less than a few hours and maybe even less than an hour.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the main promise, I think we need to explain again why it matters a lot for the countries with corruption and for countries like the United States. In the smaller countries, whether it's Africa or Ukraine, Bulgaria, Russia, the problem is that they have one centralized land registry. And there are people that are close to the software, to those databases. And basically, if you are able to reveal which properties do not have inheritance and they have older home owners, then you can basically hack the system and write the ownership to yourself. When it comes to the corruption, then you can corrupt the government official, also get the access to the database, change this database, acquire properties with these fraudulent actions, and nobody will ever trace. Because with old system, with old database, you will not be able to actually trace this change. This is why it's so important to record ownership in such countries in
On
distributed, on the blockchain, on distributed ledger technologies. And then in the United States, the problem is different. There are 3,000 counties. It's not one centralized system. And thus those counties that are not tech-driven, they utilize very, very old systems and they get hacked all the time. And we had a case in Baltimore last year where the registry couldn't be accessed and the data was lost and the county had to pay a lot to actually restore it. In Bulgaria, 2 years ago, the land registry was hacked, the centralized one.
Wow.
Also, data was lost. So I think it's time to store the valuable asset on the blockchain and not just rely on how tech savvy those governments are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think everybody's will get on to your technology or similar technologies very soon. So I want to move a little bit to your impressive bio and background and ask you a few questions about yourself. Well, for me, it's very interesting because you have a background of both software engineer, an entrepreneur, and real estate. So what really is closer to your heart among all of these things, right? So what is your favorite, baby?
Yeah, my favorite is building a product. And both in my real estate career and software career, it was development, real estate development or software development. In both areas and industries, I was developing products. I was listening to the consumer, to the customer, and building something that they even didn't expect my team could deliver in terms of expectations. That's, I guess, the core to really excel the expectation of the customer. And I love designing, planning. So whether you're building a software with smart contract or it's a real estate development, resorts in my case, in Bulgaria, you have to really make a very scaling and sustainable infrastructure, architecture, and then obviously the front end, the user experience, whether it's building a community or a software for closing transactions, it should be the most modern, cutting edge, and so on. So that's my passion. And this is how both software and real estate are connected in my world.
That actually makes a lot of sense, right? So you're the person who builds stuff. Do you build things with your hands? Let's say, like IKEA furniture or, do you paint? Like, are you good with non-digital things about actual building?
Yeah, absolutely. I love working with my hands, and that was part of my family traditions, always doing stuff. And even my daughter also, early on, I was all on Montessori, so she's very good in painting. She's more artistic than myself, but I remember I was with my father, we were constructing a house with our own hands. We would literally take woods, we would work on the wood, we would put all the blocks together, we would put the insulation that we would gather manually from the forest. So all my childhood, it was either crafting with my mom or building stuff with my dad.
Very cool. You built your own house. You can put that on your resume. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I have a brother and a sister, and they're both younger entrepreneurs. And my brother is all about doing stuff with his own hands. He moved to the United States a year ago, and he's just building all day long. He's building stuff, and I'm very proud of him.
Wow, you guys are really an example of entrepreneur and a highly driven family. All the power to you guys. Very cool. So I have quite a few women on this podcast, actually, because I'm always fascinated with women that are working in these male-dominated fields like finance, like real estate, in general, entrepreneurship. So I always ask my women guests, what's it like being a woman pioneering in this space? And you definitely are a pioneer, doing a lot of new firsts. Do you feel any different being a woman in this space?
Sometimes I do, yes. But I think without my co-founders who are female, I wouldn't be able to achieve anything. And without my advisors, the majority of them happen to be male also, I wouldn't be able to achieve. So it's support of different people, no matter which race, gender, age they are.
Sure.
But for sure, women that I meet and myself, we have less confidence in ourselves. We do need to have more support. I'm very thankful to, specifically to my co-founders, really to believe in myself, to believe in the mission we do. And I do believe that we need to work 2 times more, especially being a newcomer in the United States. When you don't know anybody, you just have to win by setting the reputation, by being helpful, honest, by helping other people. Yeah, but definitely there is a reason why we do have less women entrepreneurs in the space, why less women founders get funding, VC funding, but I think it's changing for the good.
Yeah, and thank you for this. I think people and women who are listening, it's very important for them to hear this. You know, we're coming sometimes in different engagements and conferences, we're coming out so strong and so confident. And, you know, it's easy to think that, wow, it's a very easy road for us. You know, they're lucky, but I think all in all, it's hard work and trying to make it despite all odds and despite all the statistics that go against us. But very, very cool. So who has been the most influential to you in your successful journey as an entrepreneur?
As I mentioned, these are co-founders, my team, my advisors. So many people believed in our mission and impacted the journey. Definitely, I wouldn't be able to achieve everything that I have. My family, my daughter, my fiancé, it's the everyday interactions and support with people nearby. And I'm reading a lot of books about tech founders and learning from them. The recent book I really loved is No Rules, Rules by Reed Hastings, the Netflix founder. Really an inspiring book on culture. But I guess the most influential person, which I realized recently, I never thought about it this way, but the most influential person was my mom, because she is the person who always gave me freedom. I could do whatever I want in my childhood. And at the same time, she gave enormous amount of support. Just supporting whatever I decide, whatever move I make in my life. She's always there just to support and say, you're going to make it. It will be all great. And I just realized it recently how precious it was in my childhood to never be criticized, never be questioned. And yeah, I think that was very powerful.
How lovely. You always have your own cheerleader over there and never criticizes. I love that. So you mentioned your co-founders several times now. And I know that sometimes a startup has a certain dynamic where one of the co-founders is visionary and, you know, a cheerleader also. And there's somebody who is more down to earth and, you know, laying the groundwork for everything. And then there's also somebody who maybe is great at managing people and keeping everybody on track. So which one of those are you?
That's a good question. I think I'm a moderate cheerleader. I'm not good in processes and systems. This is why we have Maria Angelova. This is our backbone. She's taking care of all the legal stuff, all the financial. So I wouldn't be able to achieve everything in Propy without her. And then the biggest cheerleader in our team is Denitsa Tufekchiva. She's fantastic. Awesome.
I met her in New York at the conference, Metaprop or something like that.
Metaprop, the real estate conference. So
MIPIM, sorry. That was sponsored by Metaprop. It was MIPIM,
And I guess we're just 3 of us, never giving up, and very, very hardworking people, like nonstop. We're so curious. We're so passionate about what we do. That is just we're not questioning whether to do the next step or not.
Got it. So Maria's keeping everybody focused. You're kind of pushing ahead with a vision and business sense and building things, creating the products. And then it says kind of this connector, right? I kind of sense that from her.
Well, she's an executor. She's the one that is very, very focused.
Mm-hmm.
She make teams execute. She's very technical. She understands software. She was the one to actually push the blockchain narrative. So when Propy started, our mission was, and it is still, to revolutionize the home buying process. And we didn't know about blockchain back then.
Wow.
Once we learned about it, both of us, we started to dig in, but she was the one to actually dig in deeper, understanding Ethereum, getting into Ethereum community first. So it's a very unusual combination where we're both very good connectors and visionaries, but at the same time, we're quite technical.
That's cool. So yeah, about the blockchain, it seems like right now you guys are in the news again, or recently I saw the investment of the Team Drapers group, and they're very, very much blockchain. And I wanted to ask you about what you think drew their group to your company and how you plan to leverage that partnership going forward.
Yeah, thank you for this question. That was the highlight of 2020, get funding from Tim Draper, who we've been following for quite a long time. He's an advocate for Bitcoin, for blockchain. He's the one who believes that Bitcoin will be $200,000. And he's an investor to companies like DocuSign, early investor, Tesla, those companies that really now we see they change the world in many aspects. But early on, these were the companies that it was very hard to believe that they will be able to replace paper signatures with signatures or replace the car manufacturing. So when he was engaging with us for several years, actually, he wanted to make sure that we have the team chemistry between each other and that we will not give up, because it's a long journey and it's a huge ambition. So that was the key for him and for his team. And for us, it was very important that he's passionate not only about Propy tokens, blockchain, but also real estate. He really believes that the blockchain part will absolutely transform the real estate transaction. The title industry, the escrow, many pieces, many middlemen are redundant in the transaction, and we can see it internationally. So he's a true believer and he understands the product very well. So it's a dream investor who gives us the freedom, but also this confidence that we're on the right path. He provides us network of his companies. So far, it's been a great partnership.
That is awesome. All right. So I want to go towards some other types of things that blockchain can do for real estate besides ordinary purchase and sales transactions, which you guys are revolutionizing and continuing to change. Let's talk a little bit about maybe tokenization or any other types of benefits that blockchain can provide for real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do normally share the three most obvious use cases of blockchain in real estate. The first one is utilizing smart contracts for purchases, sale in real estate. This is what Propy is doing. Second one is recording ownership on the blockchain. We're doing that as well, and a few other companies are doing that. And the third one is tokenization of assets, which is fractional ownership. And it's a huge use case. Many companies are working on that. And I can't wait to see a security exchange with many, many buildings tokens and real estate tokens, real estate index per country or global. So I'm very excited about all those three cases. And maybe one sub case that I would mention is real estate related insurances, like natural disaster, for example, where the community can come up together, stake their funds into this fund. And if an event will happen, then those folks who are paying the insurance, they get the insurance, and the rest to be distributed amongst the participants.
I love it. This is a little similar to, let's say, Lemonade in the way that you crowdsource the insurance, but instead of putting like simple money that's just a unit of account that doesn't multiply, you're talking about staking, which is actually putting money, digital forms of money in crypto or tokens in kind of this digital vault where it's sitting and gaining interest. So
exactly.
I love that.
And we're considering to do that for title insurance.
And you should. It's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant idea. I love it. I love it. Okay, very cool. So these three developments or these three directions of blockchain real estate, super, super interesting. And what I wanted to ask you about that is, do you believe they threaten mainstream financial institutions or organizations or the government? And, what are they doing to catch up to more agile startups like Propy?
I don't really think that these developments are threatening mainstream financial institutions, just because the financial institutions, they have those champions within organizations that are strong believers in blockchain. They're researching what's going on, and they are all following, acquiring startups, and they work closely with founders. So in those last 4 years, we have so many people reaching out from mainstream financial institutions that are willing to at least stay connected to understand when they need to react. And even from title companies, very often title companies are calling us and saying, let's figure out something together and actually disrupt title industry. Wow. So they come to us with the opportunity to disrupt their own workflow, but they do understand that if they are the first mover, they will get the majority of the market share. So it's an exciting time to see how agile institutions are becoming. And for the governments, probably this is the area where they have to change soon, and they have to act as we citizens are customers of governments. They have to soon operate as organizations, as companies, as startups, and so on.
I agree with this globalization, kind of get to pick and choose where you live. I recently was in Dubai, which is UAE country made up of immigrants pretty much. And the reason why they got there and they went on vacation and then they heard there's zero tax. And you're like, wow, zero tax. I might just live here forever. So yeah, absolutely. People get to pick and choose where they live and where they own property and where they buy property, where they invest in business and so on and so forth. So you don't necessarily have to live somewhere to invest. And absolutely, if it's very easy for me to invest in an asset in a particular market that's attractive, then absolutely, I'm going to do that. And if I have to pay exuberant taxes because my jurisdiction and the majority of other jurisdictions don't have a tax agreement, I might as well just move, right? So that's how people are going to think. I'm trying to make a table, kind of comparing different places in terms of taxation and regulation.
The way the real estate world will develop is less institutions will own real estate globally, and more ordinary people will have, let's say, several properties in Africa, which is super affordable, or a fraction of a limited assets like in New York City or California, where fractional ownership will be the king, because the only way you can own a piece of a property will be owning a token of a property. So that would be huge. But then we need to look at the taxes and choose areas where property taxes are low so that it's sustainable actually to own this asset, let it out, and so on.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of the developers that are just developing right now may also move into asset management, because that's a service that you can provide and you can exit early, and you can eat the cake and have it too.
Yeah, I actually can't wait when we will have a tokenization. And we worked a little bit with one customer on that in Propy, where you tokenize a property and every token holder has a right to altogether come up and vote to, let's say, execute a property. Or to fire the property management company and hire a new one. And this all can be done with certain rights to the token holders, where they online can make those decisions.
Yeah, governance. Very cool. Yeah, we're definitely looking for such solutions. We want to see use cases. So we're kind of on the lookout for that. So
can't wait to see this happening. Please share.
Yeah, keep us in the loop, please. I read something interesting that you said, that real estate is currently transitioning from a purely physical asset to a digitally behaving one. So what does that mean? What are some differences we should look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. If you live in a house, you occupy the house, you have the right to occupy as a renter or a homeowner. But then when you own a property, all the records of ownership today are digital. In the United States, 90% of the deals are now not signed on papers, but these are digitally signed PDF. And then when you record on the county, the majority of counties, I think 80%, have databases with ownership. And the real estate asset is purely digital, and they behave as digital because everything is happening online. With the pandemic this year, even this last step where the seller is signing the grant deed is happening now with online via web camera with e-notary. And the majority of states accepted legally e-notary this year because county had to close. So this is what I meant by behaving digitally. The execution of properties is all digital. All the pictures, videos, live streaming from open houses are digital as well. And what we will observe in the next 10, 20 years is that we will be able to access something like Bloomberg-like terminal, where you would see all the fluctuations of price points, rentals, number of transactions.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm hoping that we'll be able to deliver with Solid Block as well. So my personal background, for 7 years or so, I was working in a financial group, structuring different funds of funds on Bloomberg, using that station and then selling those funds to different family offices. I feel like you should be able to do that with individual assets. Everybody, not only fund managers, should be able to put their portfolio together, right? So eToro is kind of doing something similar, allowing you to follow a few people. So that's the beginning. And I see that there is a demand for that as well. So that's,
absolutely.
You can own property anywhere, not just one. You should diversify with whatever asset class you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And now with the dollar depreciating, obviously in our community, everybody is buying more Bitcoin, but the other asset is real estate, which is more stable. So whenever you want to diversify and have a hedge, then real estate is the go. And with companies like yours, you'll be able to put just $100, $1,000 in a bucket of properties or several properties. If you're a fan of specific countries or specific locations that you believe that their market is stable and growing.
Yeah, and you can still have a more liquid type of asset in your portfolio, right? So the assets that are digitized or tokenized can be sold on exchanges, and hopefully in the future as part of indices in the world that we are trying to create. So you'll still own a stable asset class, but it's kind of liquid.
And it's providing dividends automatically in your wallet. You're just receiving rentals.
I know, right? Amazing.
I have a question actually to you. What's in your experience a property that is already liquid in terms of tokenization?
I think the only one that's really out there and being sold is the St. Regis Aspen coin. That's the one that we tokenized, and you can buy it on T0. It's now trading around 30% premium from what it was, when it was issued, which is great news, even through Corona. The property itself obviously suffered through the pandemic, but because there is a great belief that in that specific property, I think that the value still remains because people want to hold it for years to come. Those that did need liquidity exited, and this is fantastic. In a year and a half, a year and a half after it was issued, people exited with 30% premium plus an average of 4 to 6% dividend, right? So for the year and a half then that they held it, which is fantastic, you got around 20% annual return or higher for a AAA property. So that, I think, is what most people need to understand about tokenized real estate. You are investing in the same asset, but you are shortening the amount of time in which you have to hold it. And people have different appetites for risk. If you wanted to invest in the very beginning, your payout's going to be higher. And there's somebody who's going to come along and buy this token from you because they want something that's more developed, that is more, less risky, and they're ready to accept lower payouts. Right. So that's why we're democratizing this industry, because people need to choose for themselves, right, which assets to invest in and when. So you mentioned the fall of the dollar. So does the growth of blockchain, crypto, and digital money spell the end of cash?
Well, cash is digital already. Dollars is digital. I think it's like 7% only is printed. So everything is digital already. So I do think that dollars and other currency will remain. Probably they will be transitioned into fully virtual money. Yeah. Like 100%. And I hope they will be represented on a ledger.
Right. Digital and dollar. What about dollar itself? Do you think it's going to still stay the global currency, or the crypto and blockchain-based currencies? What are they called? CNBCs, right? These central bank issued currency. What do you think is going to be the dominant currency out there, or way to exchange money, I guess?
Next 10, 20 years, dollar for sure will be the leader still. But I think that the government will actually come up into the transition of the dollar to, we will end on a somewhat, not really decentralized, but a token that will represent dollar on more distributed ledger. Something like China, what China is doing, but probably it will be our own US version.
Cool. When it comes to digital real estate, what big gaps are still remaining before it can be completely digital?
The gaps are just uniting all those puzzle pieces. So we have e-signatures, we have e-notary accepted in the majority of states. Now lenders and title companies are catching up and learning to use them. And so there are about like 5 e-notaries. There are 5 leaders in e-space besides DocuSign. And this is our mission, actually, to unite all those technology in one and allow those pieces to run on smart contracts.
Awesome. So what can we do to bolster public confidence in crypto or blockchain with regulators and the public to help it become more mainstream?
I think we just should continue doing those podcasts, educate people why blockchain is important. And it's not just, work on brand awareness of our brands like Solid Block and Propy. It's overall, whether it's Propy technology or another technology, blockchain is decentralized. So you can inherit some of the practices and learnings we had in our company and do something similar in your country. So just sharing the knowledge and sharing why blockchain matters, that we can fight corruption, we can make sure people don't lose their home ownership, we can make sure people have this democratized way to invest in developing countries or developed countries and get profit. I think that's the way to go, just continuing to educate people.
I love it. And for the final question of today, what is in store for Propy and for yourself in 2021?
That's a great question. I think this year we will just focus on our main mission, which is adoption. We have a fabulous product that is very competitive with traditional products that are on the market here in the United States. And we got to the point where traditional brokerages, home buyers start to understand the value of Propy, regardless whether there is a blockchain or not. There is a token associated with every single transaction. There is a circulation of token, and every single transaction is done on blockchain only after the token unlocks the smart contracts. So we're very happy to get to the point where our user experience is so friendly and streamlined that users don't have to know about tokens and cryptocurrencies and so on. So this will be our main focus in 2021, just to do all the efforts to have mainstream adoption.
I love that vision. So thank you for joining me on the Block Solid podcast today, Natalia. It was great having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. That was great conversation. And happy 2021.
Happy 2021. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or by visiting our website at solidblock.co/podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to rate and review and spread the word. Thanks for listening. See you next time.